Have you ever had like an endless list of things to get done and it just feels like everything is piling up on top of you, you can't think straight, and it leads to a feeling of being utterly overwhelmed? Well, I think this is actually becoming a lot more common these days. So in this video, I want to talk about what's going on inside your mind when you're overloaded like this, and also to share with you a really quick and powerful tip you can use to stop feeling overwhelmed. Hi, I'm Stephen Burns from Mind School, and I've been a practicing therapist, coach and trainer for around about 22 years. And in this video, I want to talk about overwhelm, what it is and how you can stop it. So before we begin, if you could like, subscribe and ring the bell, that would be absolutely amazing. So first of all, let's take a look. What do we actually mean by overwhelm? Well, I think it's important to point out that overwhelm is not really a thing. It's not like an illness that we contract, even though sometimes it can feel that way. But overwhelm is a concept. It's a label that we use to describe being overloaded. And when we become overloaded, our stress levels increase, we start to feel more anxious, we start to struggle to think clearly, we make worse decisions, and our productivity tends to plummet. And this is especially relevant in the workplace. I think, in this day and age, most people have quite excessive demands placed on them on a day-to-day basis. In fact, the majority of workplaces tend to expect less employees to do a lot more. I notice this even in business. As a business owner, the list of things that need to get done is endless. It is basically an endless loop. And also, as a business owner, you have to organise your own schedule, your own workload. So it can be very easy to think that you can do way more in a single day or a single week than is humanly possible. And all of this, whether you're a business owner or whether it's in the workplace, can lead to a sense of being overwhelmed. So let's go a little bit deeper into this, and in particular I want to look at what is going on inside your mind through your subjective experience when you are feeling overwhelmed. Because what's happening is often what we're doing something I call stacking. So basically we take a list of things that we need to get done, tasks or items on our to-do list, and we stack them or we pile them one on top of the other. And we arrange them in a fashion that makes us think that we have to do all of these tasks in the one time, or at the very least in a very short time frame, which is absolutely impossible, and that leads to the stress, the anxiety, that sense of overwhelm. So just to explain that in a bit more depth, because it's a little bit wordy, I just want to bring up a couple of slides. So say for example you have 6 items on your to-do list, you have 6 tasks that you have to do. The productive way to do this would be to allocate specific time slots for each of these tasks, to think about them in a very linear fashion over a course of time. So a visual representation of this could be a bit like this. So if these were your 6 items, you could allocate a specific time in your future, you could give each task your all, and then you move on to the next one. So that's a productive way to do it. That's the kind of low stress way to go about things. However, what we can often do inside our mind that then triggers the feeling of overwhelm is where we think about our tasks or our items like this. We think about them vertically. It's when we stack them or pile them one on top of the other. And we think that we have to do them all in the present moment, or as I mentioned, over a very, very short time frame, which is of course impossible. And that's why we get those feelings of being overwhelmed. A lot of the time it's not so much the number of tasks that we have to get done. Sometimes it is, of course, but it's usually how we're thinking about those tasks inside our mind in relation to time. Rather than stretching them out across time, we stack them vertically and think about doing them all pretty much in the present moment. So what is the solution? Well, the solution is fairly simple. It's basically where you take your stacked list. So first of all, you want to become aware that that is what you're doing inside your mind, and you then want to stretch them out over a longer period of time, and you want to start to think about them in a more linear fashion. So what I'd recommend you do is you take a piece of A3 paper, and rather than doing your to-do list vertically, because hey, that is what we often do, we write down a list of things in a vertical fashion on a piece of paper or on your iPad or on a document or whatever. So that's going to encourage you to think about them all within the one frame, so to speak, inside your mind. So rather than doing that, you want to take a piece of A3 paper and you want to stretch them out linearly, stretch them out in a horizontal fashion. So you can even, arrange them in this fashion here. And what that does is it gives you a different way to think about it visually inside your mind. Rather than thinking about them inside your imagination in this kind of vertical stacked way, you want to think about them visually in a more horizontal way. And this, by the way, you hear this in people's language when they're feeling overwhelmed. They'll say things like, oh, everything is just piling up. It's just weighing down on top of me. This is not like a metaphorical description. This is a literal description of how they're thinking about it in their imagination through their subjective experience. I don't know if you've ever described your experience of doing things in that way before. I know I certainly have. So like I said, the key is to become aware that you're doing it and then take that piece of A3 paper and then just, visualize it, stretch them out in that linear, much more horizontal fashion, just so that you have a different way of thinking about it. Then, once you've got that stretched out like that, you then want to do each item one after the other and give each item your full attention. Hey, it's like that advice your granny used to give you. You can only do one thing at a time. So just, spend as much of your energy doing that one thing, give it your full attention, then let it go and move on to the next thing. So hopefully that's given you some insight into what is going on inside your mind when you're feeling overwhelmed. It's usually when you're stacking, when you're piling things on top of each other and you're thinking about doing them all in the present moment. So instead you want to stretch those out into that much more linear, horizontal fashion, where each of the tasks, each of the items on your to-do list has its own individual time slots. And even if you don't necessarily, adhere to that, time slot, that's okay. It's just the fact that you're thinking about it in a different way will reduce those feelings of being overwhelmed and make it much more likely that you'll give each task your full attention before moving on to the next one. So hopefully you found this useful. Let me know how you're getting on in the comments. Give this a go, see how it changes things for you. And of course, don't forget to like, subscribe and ring the bell so I can keep you up to date with future videos. So that's all from me for today. Have a great rest of your week and I'll see you later on.